If you're a founder or CEO and you're working hard, doing everything you were told to do, and you're still feeling financially stuck or unsafe, then FEM was built for you. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. You're just under pressure and underprotected. So here's the truth. Most people aren't bad with money. They're just trying to make financial decisions inside of systems that were never designed to protect them. So they keep earning more, doing more, pushing harder, and somehow still feel behind. That's not an income problem. That's a sequencing problem, a systems problem. And FEM is built on one core principle. Protection comes first, profit comes second. Because growth without protection doesn't create freedom, it creates fragility. And FEM is not just accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes. FEM uses FEMflow, which is a financial operating system, one that works with your nervous system and helps you to stop living in survival mode and start building real protection. So your money can finally support you instead of stressing you out. You don't have to figure this out alone, and you don't have to guess your way forward, because financial protection, security, and independence are your birthright, and FEM is here to help you reclaim them. So welcome to the FEMolution Podcast. If your income is inconsistent, your money is coming in waves. If 1 month you feel like things are flowing smoothly, and the next you are stressed to the absolute max, there is a reason that the advice you've been getting has never really worked for you. It wasn't built for the way your life actually is. Because the current system you're in is assuming one thing, that your income is predictable. Your paychecks are arriving on time and you ain't missing no money from them. And your revenue is stable enough for you to plan your life around it. But for founders, creators, visionaries, entrepreneurs, we already know that our income rarely behaves that way. It's seasonal. It's delayed. It's uneven. It's coming in waves. And without a system designed for that variability that we live in, our body becomes the buffer. And our nervous system becomes the shock absorber. And enough is enough. It stops today. Because here's the mistake, okay? Here's the mistake that we all make because we're human. We assume that inconsistency is the problem. So we spend all of our energy trying to become consistent, trying to build consistent income, consistent months, consistent numbers. And while consistency can help, it is not the prerequisite that people think it is, that we think it is, right? Because what actually creates safety isn't consistency. It's containment. Because when our income is inconsistent, our nervous system stays on high alert. So every single deposit feels important. Every slow period we experience feels threatening. Every decision we make feels like it could be the wrong one. And without a system designed for that variability that we experience, our body ends up acting as the buffer. We become the shock absorber for an unstable system. So our stress absorbs what the system does not. This is why people with inconsistent income often, more often than not, feel exhausted even during those good months. Because they're not just managing money. That's not all we're doing, right? We're managing uncertainty. We're constantly asking ourselves, how long is this going to last? What happens if next month is slow? What if I make the wrong move? And that constant vigilance is draining. And there's something else we do. When we do have a good month and when good things do happen to us, we've learned to manage our expectations. Because when you're on a roller coaster and your highs are high, but your lows are low, you know that if you let yourself get too high, that when you eventually come back down, the crash is going to do more damage. So we have to compensate for that. And to compensate for that, we learn to manage our expectations. We can hope for the best, but we have to prepare for the worst. And most of the advice tells us, because we have inconsistent income, that we need to be disciplined, more disciplined than we already are, right? We got to tighten up, budget harder, restrict ourselves more in the good months so that way when the bad months happen, we're still okay. But restriction doesn't create safety under variability. It creates pressure. And pressure makes inconsistency feel worse, not better. And then we internalize that because all of a sudden now we're the problem because we knew what we were supposed to do and we didn't do it. We forgot to manage our expectations. And because we didn't manage our expectations, now we're right back where we started. Listen, that's not how this is supposed to work. Okay? So FEMFlow approaches this differently. It's actually built for the income inconsistency. It's built for the variability. It was designed for that. Okay, so it doesn't try to eliminate it. It works with it. Because variability in our income, that inconsistent income we have, that is not a flaw. It is a condition of the environment. And conditions require architecture not punishment. And this is where the current system fails to protect the rest of us, because it's treating every single dollar like it's the same. It's assuming the money is interchangeable and the value of their dollar is the same as the value of our dollar. And that our money's coming on schedule like clockwork. And if it doesn't, we gonna be cool because we got a backup. Except our bodies, the backup. Our nervous system is the shock absorber. And that's why when our income is inconsistent, sequencing matters more than the amount. Because what you do first determines whether your system stabilizes or whether you stay stuck in the stress cycle that has become your life. And this is where most people feel like they can never get ahead because they're always reacting. They're always catching up. They're always bracing for the next dip. It's not because you're irresponsible or I'm irresponsible or we're irresponsible collectively, right? But it's because the system we operate in doesn't absorb that fluctuation. Instead, we have to transmit that fluctuation directly into our bodies. FEMflow absorbs the fluctuation that we naturally experience at the system level, not the body level. We don't have to absorb it. The system does. So that way, variability doesn't automatically translate into panic. So the slow periods that we deal with start feeling manageable instead of catastrophic. So that when the good months come, they don't create reckless decisions or false confidence that causes us to second guess ourselves and make rush decisions, right? And then regret it later and start the shame spiral. Because both of those extremes, extremely slow months, extremely great months, can destabilize a system that isn't designed for that level of change. And we know as entrepreneurs that that happens a lot. So here's what I want you to understand, okay? Consistency doesn't create calm. Safety does. And safety is not about predictability. It's about knowing that the system can hold you even when things change. This is why I say this all the time. Some people with wildly inconsistent income can still feel grounded. And other people with relatively stable income can still feel constantly on edge. The difference isn't the numbers. It's the system's relationship to uncertainty, the one that they're operating in. And when FEMFlow is in place, then that income variability stops being so personal. It stops feeling like a reflection of your worth. It stops dictating your emotional state because the system no longer asks you to solve uncertainty. It's not your job. It already knows what to do when the money moves and it's flowing and when it doesn't because it stopped or slowed down. And this is the shift that people don't even expect, okay? They assume that a system that was designed for inconsistent income is going to feel restrictive. But what it actually feels like is relief. It's not restricting you, it's relieving you. Why? Because it removes the need to constantly decide what everything means. It reduces the emotional interpretation of every deposit, every time, and every delay. And it gives money a role instead of a voice. So if your income has never been predictable, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to become a different kind of person. You don't need to force yourself into a structure that was never designed for your reality. You just need a system that understands your variability and doesn't punish you for it. Hello, FEMFlow. FEMFlow does not demand consistency before safety. It creates safety within that inconsistency. And once that safety exists, consistency often improves naturally. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're no longer operating from panic. And once you experience what that feels like, it becomes impossible to go back to managing money the old way. So if this episode helped you feel less broken and more understood, then I want you to stay with me. Subscribe to the FEMolution Podcast. Turn on notifications so that every single week you know when an episode drops. Because next week, next Tuesday, like clockwork, we're actually going to talk about protection and why protection first is not playing small, even though the world is going to try to tell you it is. Okay? So until next week, thank you for sticking with me, and I'll see you then. All right? Bye.